Hey folks, Eddie from Totally Wired Guitars here, and today we're taking a look at this made in Japan traditional 60s Fender Jaguar. So this one came to me with one of the most unbelievable stories that I've heard in my 15 plus years of doing guitar work. This came to me from a brand new client who had told me that he had been inspired by my videos and by my praise for Fender Japan offset guitars to try to find and acquire one of his own. Little did I know that this client of mine was a flight attendant, and he actually switched spots with one of his coworkers to be able to go straight to Japan just for the sole mission of finding and purchasing his very own Japanese Fender Jaguar. He told me that he was there for less than 24 hours, so it took him much longer to get there round trip than the time he actually spent there, but that it was well worth it because he landed this bad boy, which after a bit of haggling, he was able to get for a bit less than $1,000, which is insane. The thing is in pretty much perfect condition, save for a little bit of scratches on the back. He did tell me the store that he bought this from tried to fleece him a little bit, probably because he's an American and maybe they assumed that he didn't know what these were worth, but the fact that he was able to get it down to below $1,000 made the arduous journey that much more worthwhile. Now, I've done videos of the traditional 60s Jaguars before, but I have never done one that wasn't an FSR model, so this has quite different specs from the ones that came with bound necks and alder bodies, for example. So let's get right into these specs. The standard traditional 60s Jaguars come with basswood bodies, a 9.5-inch radius U-shaped Jaguar neck with a lightly tinted maple polyurethane finish throughout. This has vintage size frets and a nice dark rosewood fretboard. These also come standard with the Fender Japan vibrato unit, as well as the traditional threaded saddle bridge, which we've replaced here with one of the Nova Custom Guitars 52 millimeter string spacing Mustang bridges. Now, you can totally get away with using the traditional bridge, as I've mentioned in many other videos before. However, this one came a bit rattly and was buzzing and just making unwanted noises. So the client requested that I swap it out for as cheap but as good a quality as I could find. So the Nova Custom Guitars Mustang bridge fit the bill perfectly for that. These also came with bone nuts, which is great. And they do have that 40 millimeter narrower nut width, which, as I've mentioned, can be a deal breaker for some people. But in my personal opinion, that narrower nut width is offset by the designated U shape that they've given this, which is basically just a full C shape with a bit more of a shoulder to the neck. It's very, very comfortable. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have my Johnny Marr Jaguar here, which is one of my favorite Jags ever, and I do find this neck actually to be more comfortable to play on. These also come with some kind of economy vintage style tuner. These are no longer Gotos, unfortunately, to save on cost, but they are perfectly functional and of good quality overall, just a little bit less quality than the Gotos that Fender Japan has historically used on all of their Fender offset style guitars. Like with all other Fender Japan offsets produced over the past 5 years, these come with good quality premium electronics throughout. We've got the CTS pots, full size for your volume and tone control, Switchcraft jack, Switchcraft switches throughout, as well as US spec mini pots made by Chinsung in Korea. They are the same size as the CTS pots used in the American Vintage Reissue series. So if you wanted to swap those out, you easily could, but I see no reason to actually do that because they are of good quality already. Changed also from the golden era of Fender Japan is they no longer use the printed red tortoiseshell guards. These are very comparable to the guards used on your AV65 or even your AV2 offsets. These are kind of a darker, blurry kind of tort, which is nice and tasteful, but I know that the old bright red printed ketchup guards are a fan favorite for some, but I am glad to see that they have improved the quality of the tort overall. Now, much like the FSR traditional 60s Jaguars that did not come loaded with pure vintage 65 pickups, these have a domestically produced vintage style Jaguar pickup that just sound good. Honestly, I do not feel any reason to have to swap these out because they sound like proper Jaguar pickups should. They are not overwound or overly hot, and they sound nice and clear, bordering on microphonic, which is a positive for me because I think it's a bit closer to the vintage tone that I've heard from actual vintage 60s Jaguars. And yeah, they just have a lot of character to them. And when I have swapped them out for things like the American Vintage 62 pickups or even pure Vintage 65 pickups, I ended up regretting it and going back to the original pickups on those because I just liked the stock pickups more. That said, that is my personal opinion and your ears may be different, so take that with a grain of salt. Also, as previously mentioned with other traditional 60s Jaguars that I've discussed in the past, the tremolo units, or vibrato units, as I've been corrected so many times in the recent past, are quite good quality even as they are. Yes, you will notice some improvements by upgrading these to an American Vintage reissue unit, but to be honest with you, they are really nice and responsive. And the only thing that I've had to do to make these feel better outside of actually setting them up and setting the tension spring and calibrating it to the actual string gauge I've installed on these Jaguars is to go ahead and bend the arm upwards because it does sit a little low stock once you've dialed it in, and that's easy enough of a fix. One thing to mention here is that on some of these, yes, you do get the loosey-goosey tremolo arm sometimes, but the one on this, thankfully, has tighter tolerances, and so as you can see, it stays where you leave it without any unnecessary friction as well. One other thing that I did forget to mention that I did have to do to this guitar that you should also expect is that this guitar does ship with 9 to 42 gauge strings, and stepping up to 11s on this, like an 11 to 49 set, will require you to open up those nut slots. So if you do not play, 9s or 10s and want to step up 2 gauges, then definitely you are going to need to bring it to a tech or do that nut work yourself. Now, the overall feel and playability and fit and finish of this guitar is absolutely the best at the price point that these come in. You can normally find these anywhere from a bit under $1,000 all the way up to $1,300, depending on where you buy it from. But there is no other Jaguar in this price bracket that even comes close. And I will go ahead and say that the fit and finish and the playability and the overall craftsmanship and sound of this guitar stands toe to toe with your more expensive Fender Jaguars that have come out in the recent past, such as your American Original 60s Jaguar, which also has a 9.5-inch radius, despite the fact that this one has a basswood body and a polyurethane finish. Consistently, I find these to be super acoustically resonant guitars. They are super fun to play, even unplugged, and they just feel and sound good. And I hate to say it because I don't like putting down other guitars, but if you had the choice between something like this and one of the Vintera 2 Jaguars, this is easily a way better guitar for your money. Now, whether it's going to be your first Fender Jaguar or you are going to be adding to your collection of offsets, this is a fantastic buy for the money. Again, the craftsmanship in general. I've been told that at Fender Japan, unlike out here in the West, every single person that has their hands in the construction of this guitar is an actual certified luthier. So it's no wonder that they consistently put out such high quality instruments despite the lower price point. The upside to this is also not a special run, so you can get these all day, every day, pretty consistently for the prices that I have mentioned. I've seen them come most commonly in the 3-tone sunburst color, but I've started to see them come out in Olympic white as well. And every now and again, some of the stores do special runs with the very same specs, with just a different color and matching headstock. And I've seen those come in Daphne Blue, Dakota Red, Shell Pink, and yeah, these guitars are just phenomenal. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up for this guitar. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it informative, especially if you're on the hunt for a Fender Jaguar. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be notified of new videos as soon as they drop. It helps this teeny tiny new channel to grow. And as always, don't forget to follow Totally Wired Guitars for more offset guitars buying tips.